My two grandmas. My two grandmas lived in a little shack on the edge of this field where some people growed soybeans, which is sort of like black-eyed peas except nobody eats them directly. They just grind them into flour-like and put that into food to give it more protein or to make fake milk or veggie burgers that fool people who can't eat meat for one reason or another or don't wanna, into thinking that they really are eating meat. Not that my grandmas do any farming. They're too old for that, and besides, Grandma Betty Lou don't got no legs. She had 'em amputated on account of her diabetes, which is to say she had to have 'em cut off. So she wouldn't be much good out in the field, except I suppose they could prop her up in a tractor and she could drive around all day if she had a mind to. That would be a sight, wouldn't it? My grandma sitting on top of some old tractor like a giant roly-poly beach ball, teetering and tottering, fit to roll off first time she hits a bump. Did I mention that she's awful big? I don't want to cast suspicions and say fat, 'cause it's not really her fault, bless her heart. Since they cut off her legs, she hadn't had nothing to do but lay in bed all day long and eat Grandma Lucy May's angel food cakes. Grandma Lucy May makes the most delicious angel food cakes, which I was always partial to when I was coming up. I always thought they were made special for me, my name being Angel Louise, which made sense in a way. After all, there was no Grandma Betty Lou food cake or Daddy food cake or any other kind of food cake except Angel Louise. It made me feel kind of special until my daddy smacked me one day and said, "You ain't no bargain, girl. Lest it be a bargain from the 5 and dime." That made everybody laugh, like as to say I was cheap and no count. So I didn't tell nobody after that how special I felt, but kept it inside me like a secret little treasure. Guess I was waiting for somebody to come along and agree with me. But I'll get to that part later. Sometimes Grandma Betty Lou would get in terrible pain, and she'd set to hollering, "Lucy May! Lucy May!" to have Grandma Lucy May bring her pain pills, which was little blue and white pills that Grandma Betty Lou got off the Medicate doctor, who wasn't the best doctor in town, but he was all she could get. You see, he had a reputation on account of something he did long ago with a little girl that didn't turn out so good and that people still allude to, which is a word that means they talk about it without coming right out and saying what it was he done, but kind of start the sentence and raise their eyebrows and then look to see there's a child in the room like me and stop. But everybody knows what they could have said if the child hadn't been there. But this incident made it so he couldn't get no regular patients, so he practices on people the county sends over and such. I guess it's a sign of how good he was, that he was still, after all these years, practicing, like he hadn't got good enough to just do his doctoring. He still has to practice. Just like when I was learning to play the trombone, I'd practice and practice and practice awful hard till my daddy yelled at me to take that fool thing out in the soybean field. 'Cause no matter how hard I practiced, no matter how much heart I put into my practicing, I just couldn't make myself no better at playing the thing. All I wanted to do was give people pleasure listening to me. But I just ended up annoying them so. I guess the doctor's sort of like me that way. When Grandma Betty Lou set up a hollering for her little blue and white pills, "Lucy May! I hurt Lucy May! Bring me my pills!" Grandma Lucy May would shout back, "It ain't time yet, Betty Lou. You have to wait till the doctor says. I can't give you no more pills till it's time." And then she'd go outside into her garden, 'cause she kept herself a little vegetable garden outside where she growed peas and corn and tomatoes and such like that she fixed up and made people eat from time to time. Not that she needed to, 'cause between her food stamps from being so poor and all the food that my folks and all my uncles and aunts brought over, and my daddy was always taking her shopping. All the time I was growing up, I remember my daddy saying, "I'm going over to take Grandma to the Piggly Wiggly." It's like they went shopping every blessed day. Well, between all that shopping and the garden and seeing how they didn't have nothing else to do sides eat, those were two big old wiggly-piggly grandmas I had. I don't mean it to be mean, but the truth's the truth. But Grandma Lucy may go out into the garden so she wouldn't have to listen to Grandma Betty Lou calling from her bed. I seen a calf stuck in a fence once, and it was hollering and bawling for its mama something terrible. And all the time it moved and tried to get loose, the barbed wire cut it more and tangled it more till it was just a mess of hamburger meat, and it bawled and cried even louder. And that's when Grandma Betty Lou minded me of I heard her crying out in the bed and for her little white and blue pills. And one day, when Grandma Lucy May was outside in her garden hunkering down in the dirt like some old taffeta hog rooting in the soil, and Grandma Betty Lou was setting up her bawling, I did something bad. I snuck into the place where I spied Grandma Lucy May keep the little blue and white pills, and I took 'em to Grandma Betty Lou. I know it was a bad thing to do, 'cause it wasn't the proper time for her to have her pills, but I remember how Grandma Betty Lou was the one who made the cake especially in my honor, and I just couldn't let her lie there in her bed, hollering like no calf tangled up in a chain of barbed wire, and I gave her a pill. She took it with shaking hands and gobbled it down real greedy-like. Bless you, child. It had been a long time since anybody blessed me, and I guess I needed it on account of my doing something so against the doctor's orders. And while she was lying there panting real hard like she was fighting the pain, I parceled her out another one, and she took that. And presently a calm, peaceful look came over her. And after I took the pills back and slipped them back in their little hidey place, I went back and sat with Grandma Betty Lou, and we had the pleasantest time talking about things going on at school and what boys I was partial to and such like, till Grandma Lucy May came and seed us. She looked kind of sideways at Grandma Betty Lou, and she looked awful hard at me like she 'spected something, but I just smiled as sweetly as I could, and she couldn't say nothing on account of she didn't know nothing for sure. But she did wait an extra half hour to give Grandma Betty Lou her pill, and might have waited even longer, excepting I piped up as innocent as I could, "Oh, isn't it time for Grandma Betty Lou's pill?" And then she had to give up the medicine, but you could tell she didn't like doing it, parceling it out like a poor person at the market counting out their tiny last little bit of change. And you could tell from the way she studied the bottle, she was trying to pry its secret out. And when she put the bottle back, it wasn't in the same place, but a new hidey place, where she thought I wouldn't be able to find it. Grandma Lucy May would say it was God's will that Grandma Betty Lou was suffering like that, and it wasn't for us to go against the doctor's orders. But I couldn't no way see through to what the two had to do with each other, though maybe if I paid more attention to Grandma Lucy May's Bible verses, that would have been more clearer to me, and I would have done the right thing instead of the bad thing that I did. After that, whenever I came over, I rooted about the house to find them pills. There wasn't no hidey place I could find, partly 'cause after a while Grandma Lucy May would run out of new hidey places and forget she'd already used one, and I'd already learned all the old ones, and I would find them pills, and I'd give one or two to Grandma Betty Lou. And I suppose it wasn't right what I did, but it seemed to make her so happy, and she and I would have the pleasantest time after the pain eased away from her.